let's dive straight into it. What's your first tip you've got for us today?
The first tip I'm really passionate about, and it's be a teacher who reads and a reader who teaches.
Nice.
Read for pleasure and read for progress. That's my first tip.
Amazing. Tell us a bit about this.
I think I'm a really big advocate of teachers wanting to learn and understand more, and I think reading is such a great way of doing that. Of course, there's podcasts and there's blogs, but I think diving into a really good book, and I just think we're in a golden age of edubooks, and I think there's something for everybody's taste. So I just think if you are a teacher who wants to improve their pedagogy, their understanding, subject knowledge, if you want to go deep, if you want to do a little bit of light reading, I think there's just something for everyone. But I also think that if you are a teacher and just to enjoy books and ensure that your children love reading, whether you're primary or secondary, so that's my reading for pleasure bit. And I'm a really massive reading for pleasure advocate.
Oh, this is great. So let's talk about this reading for kind of professional development. Have you always been a reader for kind of teaching tips, or has that come a little bit later in your career?
I think for me, I've always been a reader. I've always been someone who's, from being a child, I've loved libraries. I was a librarian, and that was my job for a couple of years. And then I've been English lead. So all of that just means that I'm very passionate about reading. I think reading educational books has kind of been part of my leadership journey. And I think every kind of PD that I've been involved in, I've always wanted to read behind the kind of headlines of everything and find out who's saying what and why. And I just think that gives you a level of confidence, not because somebody's telling you exactly what you can do in your school. I don't think there's ever any time that anybody pins that down. But I think when you can read the arguments behind why people are saying we should be doing things, I just think that arms you as a teacher with either saying yes or actually I need to think about that a little bit more. Yeah.
What are your reading practices, if this isn't a daft question? So if you're reading reading a book, are you a skimmer? Are you from page one till the end? Are you taking notes? How are you digesting the kind of key takeaways?
I am a page one to the end, but if I'm reading for pleasure, I'll read the end first.
You're joking.
I do. I know people hate that. They hate that, Craig. They hate when I say that. But I do, because I can't wait. I'm one of those people who just can't. I've got to find out what's going to happen. It's like if I'm watching anything like, Line of Duty or anything like that, I'll watch that last episode. I need to know what's happened. I know it's terrible. It's terrible. But I've got to do it. I can't wait. And I enjoy it more when I know what's going to happen, whether good or bad. So I read the end, but I am a post-it note person. I'll post-it note. I don't like to highlight books. I know some people really highlight and write on books. It depends on what I'm reading it for, but usually I'm just a post-it note, write on the post-it note type of person. Yeah.
And if you kind of come across an education book, first, how do you decide what to read? Is it recommendations? Do you have a filter system? How do you decide what gets you time?
I am very much about recommendations. I read, if somebody's suggested something. I do use Twitter a lot, so lots of recommendations come from Twitter. But also got great opportunities, because we are a research school. There's lots of kind of background reading that we have to do. So something will, if I'm running a particular program, something will spark me and I'll think, gosh, it'd be great to actually read a little bit more about that. So it might be a paper, it might be a blog, it might be a book, but I just think as teachers, and that makes me more confident, particularly if I'm delivering that, because I know the kind of story behind it. So lots of kind of things spark me to read, yeah.
And let's think about your staff now. So if you read something interesting, I guess two things really. First, how do you share the kind of key stuff with your colleagues so that it sticks and makes a difference? And how do you encourage teachers to read more? Because you get the classic thing like we don't have time and so on. So what are your responses to that?
We have got a staff PD library, where we are constantly, and we've based that on teacher recommendations as well as the kind of leadership ones that we think would be good for staff to have. And we are that school that does we're sending something out and we'll make time in a PD session to talk about it. Not spend ages on it, but just to flag up a couple of headlines. If people have read something, then we kind of say, that's let's talk about that, let's think about it a little bit more. So I think as a school, if you do want, and when people talk about time is, it's so time short in teaching. It is that thing that if we could make the day longer without making ourselves even more exhausted, we would. But it is, if we want it to work, we've got to make time for staff to read. Little chunks of time consistently throughout the year, making that time for staff to read, yeah.
And when you say you send out the kind of headlines, how do you do that, Sonia? Is that an email? Is that a newsletter? Is it a regular thing? How does that work?
Yeah, because again, being a researcher is great because we have monthly newsletters that we send out anyway. So all of our staff get access to those. So that, again, there's a real range, and we will review for those research school newsletters. But we also, if we've got a PD coming up and we've got a little chunk of reading that we want staff to read, we'll email that out in good time, though, making sure that
Yes.
we've kind of planned out our PD sessions and making sure that we give staff time to do that. And if they don't, we've got a little chunk of time in that PD session to have a read through and work as a group just to summarise and make some, pull out some key headlines, as I said.
Fantastic. And final question, just on this one. I'm still, by the way, trying to get over the fact that you read the ending of books and TV. I can't get my head around that.
Oh,
no. But my final question on this is, and it's a bit of an impossible question, but what have been some of the biggies, the key books, perhaps over the last 12 months or so, that either have had a profound impact on you as a leader or perhaps your staff in terms of their practice? Just pick out a few headlines for us.
I mean, I have to talk about leveraged leadership. Getting better faster, because I've currently just finished my year-long leverage leadership PD.
Nice.
And done by the author Paul Bambrick Santoyo was my tutor, and that has been I know it sounds really creepy, but it's been quite life-changing for me, because being part of that, the Leverage Leadership Institute and the fellowship has been fantastic. The book has really changed some of our practice in terms of coaching and the support and the way that we support our teachers. It's been really influential because we're videoing some of our sessions and some of our routines and systems. So I think that book has been really quite powerful for us. I don't know if anybody knows, but we've written a book as well. St Matthew's, we've written An Ethic of Excellence, Ron Berger's book. And it's been great because I've gone back to an ethic of excellence. But what's been really nice is that we've been able to link research to a lot of the practices that Ron Berger's talked about. So again, a couple of my senior leaders have written chapters. So it's been great to have that book for staff, to give that book to staff to really go through, and we're using it for PD as well. Most recently, I'm reading a book, and I thought I had it here. The name's gone out of my head, but Simplicitous has been fantastic. Emma Turner has really kind of captured primary, and I think often we kind of forget the uniqueness of primary, and I think that book has been really powerful in really capturing some key messages around what we should be thinking about as primary practitioners, particularly when it comes to curriculum and the way that we, the uniqueness and what we need to really make sure that we don't lose as part of that uniqueness of primary. So, yeah.
Amazing. Some great recommendations.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.